everybody, this is Lisa, something me for handcrafts, and I'm going to be Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs to talk about making the perfect fat singles. Now, the first process to making the perfect fat singles is to do a slub yarn. So, of course, you say why? Well, first of all, the book explains that, as we achieve thinner and thinner single yarn, when we want something thicker, we have to ply up because somehow we've lost the ability to make the thicker yarns. In order to gain back that ability, the book suggests that you practice with slubs. Slubs will give you the kind of control, teach your fingers the kind of control you need to draft out thicker yarns, basically, to put more fiber into that drafting zone and to make thicker yarns. Okay, first of all, when you're spinning singles, especially if you're using singles that you are going to, or if you're spinning singles that you're going to intentionally use as singles, that's what I'm trying to say. You have to be careful how much twist you're putting in that single, because if you don't, you're going to wind up with a lot of over-plied single or over-twisted single. And since you're not plying, there's going to be nothing to reduce that twist. So you're not going to get a balanced single because you can't balance a single if it's by itself. But you will learn to get a single that is less twisted so you don't get as much skew in whatever it is you're using. I love using singles. I like to knit with singles. I like to weave with singles. And it is a process to learn how to get a useful single that's not completely overplied. Okay, so let me show you this little picture here. That's really beautiful. Okay, now, anyway, when you're spinning the slubs, you're paying attention to some techniques that you may not paid attention to when you're spinning normal yarn, because after a while it just becomes like a process, a muscle memory, and you're not really thinking about the steps in between like you were when you were initially learning how to spin. So you're really going back, you're training your mind to slow down and see those steps so that you can apply those steps in between that are going to show you how to make this single. Now, let's see. Okay, now let's go ahead and make a slub. Before we do, just want to give you the recommendation of the book. Slubs and fat yarns, of course, can be made from any fiber. But when the fiber is combed and they all line up, it is easier for spinning worsted and pulling out slubs. Okay? And it's easier to make longer slubs that are smoother when the staple length is a nice staple length. Okay? Because the slub that you're pulling out is going to go from the tip of that staple length to the tip of that staple length. And so you just kind of have to be careful because you don't want to pull that out. And you know what? I want you to think about that for when we get into things like beehives and for the corkscrews, is that you're drafting out that length of the staple length. And so you kind of need to know where it starts, where it stops, because that's where you're going to stop that draft out and then, picking back up again. So that it is important. The author likens it to candy, wrapped candy. Think like Tootsie Rolls or any other wrapped candy where you have the ends, then you have the twisted part, then you have the fat middle, then you have the twisted part, then you have the ends. Okay, so there's more to it, but just get a copy of the book and read that. And let's go ahead and get started. Now, the book is using Falkland, and it just so happens that I have some Falkland here too. Just a little teeny short piece, so this is going to be a really short demo. So, first of all, you spin yourself a little length, some just normal, just your normal single. Okay. And then you're going to stop treadling. I suggest you stop treadling. The book suggests you stop treadling. That way you can slowly and deliberately make this slub, get a feel for what's happening with the fiber, actually looking at the staple length. I mean, this staple length for this Falkland is really nice, as you can see. I've got some nice staple length here. See? So I could draft out almost this entire staple length, which I actually won't, but I really could. Okay, let me show you. Okay, so now I'm drafting forward. The book recommends that you draft forward with this. I'm pinching it off until you begin to see a thin spot. And like I said, this staple length for this falcon is really long, so I could go some ways before I get a thin spot. But I am going to stop it here. Okay. Now, notice what I did not do was smooth my finger along the slub, because that could raise up fibers and keep it from being neat. I'm just going to jump right here to this part. Let me go ahead and put a little more twist in there. And I'm pulling it a little more than I need to, only because the staple length is so long, so I'm not getting to the thin part like I want to. Okay, so here's our thin part again. Now, I'm going to do the same thing. I got to smooth that out because I did break it up a bit. Here's my slub, pulling it out, and I'm going to jump like I did before because it's longer. But I'm going to pull it as if it would normally thin. That looks like a good one right there. Okay. You know what? There was a video. I think it was JC. Oh, I can't remember. But the way she explained it was almost like she pressed down with her thumb and created the slub. Then you need to let go. You really need to let go. Resist the urge to smooth that, except for right here because I did that. So, and take it back to the drafting zone. Okay, let me see if I can do that. This is like really, really long staple length. So I'm going to just kind of artificially thin it. Oh, that's a nice slub right there. Let me leave that be. Okay, now, it may not look all that super slubby to you, but if I let that go, that's a definite slub. It's just a kind of a long slub because the staple length is so big or so long. Now, if I were to ply this, or here's a really nice spot right here too. Normally what I do when I ply the slub yarn, if I'm plying it, is I like to spiral ply with thread, and it really, you can really see those slubs, and it comes out really nicely. Okay, this one's already started. I got that nice and thin, and there we go. Okay, let me let the tension off of that so you can see nice and slubby that is right along my hand here compared to this over here. And you're just being mindful of how much of this fiber is in this drafting zone. Okay, so this little bit right here compared to this chunk right here is what makes the difference. That's what makes the slub. That's why you're pulling it until this begins to thin up here. Okay, so look at these differences. You've got this thick slub and then this right here. Oh, that's a nice thick slub. And it's all about how much fiber I am putting in my drafting zone. When I'm just spinning my normal thickness, just this little bit of fiber in the drafting zone. When I'm about to spin a slub, I've got this much fiber in the drafting zone. Okay. And I'm drafting it out back here to have this little bit of fiber in the drafting zone. And I am not smoothing this down. And I'm not over twisting it, because if I do over twist the thin part, when I release, it's going to run up into the thicker part a bit. So I don't want to do that either. And this is why it's important to practice and to do some of these yarns, because it's a different muscle memory. So you're not running on autopilot like I'm doing now when I'm just spinning this. You know, I have to stop and purposefully create slubs. Purposefully not do what I normally do when I spin. Okay, I'm so hoping that this little mini talk actually made sense to you. And like I said, the best way to go about this is to practice. You're going to find this section, let me see, page 64 through pages, well, that was 67. And then right after that, we're going to go ahead and spin ourselves a nice fat single. Okay. And we could do a little something with our fat single. I'm spinning this during the spin-off cow along. And so a fat single would be very nice for a, let me show you that one real quick. That's really pretty. A fat single would be really nice for a nice squishy cow. So next time, we'll go ahead and do a fat single. Then we'll talk about some more plying techniques. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.